Have you ever felt completely plugged in, yet somehow completely lost? In 2025, we are the most connected generation in history, and yet a staggering 68% of us say we feel alone. How is that possible? What if our digital suffering isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a message calling us back to something deeper? This video uncovers what Carl Jung warned us about, long before smartphones existed, and how his century-old insights may be the key to surviving the psychological storm of our time. Section 1, the modern pain landscape. Let's start with the numbers. In 2025, the average person spends 7.5 hours a day looking at screens. That's nearly half of our waking lives. And with that time comes a silent epidemic, rising anxiety, burnout, and a haunting sense of emptiness. We scroll endlessly, attend back-to-back Zoom calls, and shapeshift across apps, all while feeling more disconnected than ever. But here's the radical idea. What if this pain is not random? What if it's our psyche trying to communicate something? Carl Jung believes suffering isn't meaningless. It's a messenger, an urgent knock at the door of your unconscious. Every day, the average person consumes 74 gigabytes of information, more than our ancestors encountered in a lifetime. But our brains haven't evolved to handle this flood. Unlike previous generations who battled physical survival, we face a subtler enemy, constant stimulation without pause. The result, a feeling of never being enough, always behind, always fragmented. And this fragmentation is personal. Online, we present carefully crafted versions of ourselves, the LinkedIn professional, the Instagram artist, the TikTok entertainer. But deep down, we know these personas aren't the whole truth. When your curated self drifts too far from your authentic self, you begin to feel alienated from who you really are. Section 2, Carl Jung's Life and Timeless Wisdom. Born in 1875, Carl Jung lived through the rise of modern psychology and the chaos of the Industrial Revolution. He worked alongside Freud, but soon split off to chart his own path into dreams, symbols, and the soul of humanity. Though Jung never saw an iPhone, his ideas eerily predict our current crisis. He believed every major societal shift brings with it a psychic cost, and that without inner work, technological progress would eventually fracture our minds. We're now living through the digital revolution, a shift even faster and more invasive than the one Jung witnessed. But the principles he outlined still apply. In fact, they may be even more essential today. Section 3, the shadow. Your digital double Jung called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, hide, or repress. And in 2020, shadow has gone digital. Think of your Instagram feed, the comments you deleted, the texts you drafted but never sent, the Zoom smile that hides your exhaustion. These fragments form your digital shadow. You might feel uneasy after a long scroll session or guilty after rage posting. That discomfort, it's your shadow knocking. Jung warned, the less the shadow is embodied in the conscious life, the blacker and denser it becomes. But it's not just about dark impulses. Your shadow includes anything you've pushed away, your need for rest, your envy, your fear of missing out, your longing for something more. The more you suppress, the more those parts leak out in compulsive digital behavior. Have you ever opened an app with no intention just to feel something? Have you doom scrolled late at night, unable to stop? Have you clicked buy now to escape a feeling you couldn't name? That's your unconscious trying to be heard. Section 4, case study. Maya, the content creator. Meet Maya. At 24, she was a rising star on Instagram with over 200,000 followers. Her photos, breathtaking. Waterfalls, sunsets, yoga poses on mountaintops. But behind the scenes, Maya battled insomnia, mounting debt, and panic attacks. Her life looked perfect, but it felt like a prison. When Maya began shadow work, she realized her curated persona was drowning her real self. She journaled her feelings after posting. Why did a flood of likes feel so empty? Why did success come with dread? Eventually, Maya traced her need for validation to childhood moments of being ignored. Her content had become a survival mechanism, not a creative expression. By facing this, she began sharing raw, real moments, her anxiety, her growth, her truth. Her audience didn't leave, they leaned in. Her authenticity resonated deeper than perfection ever could. Section 5, digital persona versus authentic self. We live in fragments. One minute we're replying to emails with corporate precision. The next we're posting memes, flirting in DMs, or commenting on a political thread. Each platform pulls a different mask from us, Jung called this the persona, the mask we show the world. But when our masks multiply and harden, we risk losing the thread that connects them all, our true self. This leads to something modern psychologists call switchkan chiwang atogasan, a mental fatigue from constantly shifting roles. Jung would call it psychic fragmentation. The path forward, not to delete every app, but to notice where the masks end and you begin. Section 6, Shadow Work for the Digital Age. Want to meet your shadow? Start with this exercise, the Digital Shadow Inventory. For 7 days, track every moment of digital discomfort. Did a TikTok video make you feel inadequate? Did an email after hours stir up resentment? Did someone's post trigger jealousy? These moments aren't weaknesses, they're messages. Ask yourself, what part of me felt unseen? What am I avoiding? What truth did I silence in that moment? Jung said healing comes not through repression, but integration. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your unspoken truth waiting to be welcomed home. In a world screaming for attention, true peace might begin with quietly listening to yourself. Let's pick up where we left off on the edge between who we are and who we pretend to be online. In Maya's story, we saw how painful it can be when the curated self dominates the authentic one. But this digital dissonance doesn't just affect influencers, it shapes us all. So what happens when we stop performing and start reclaiming our lived experience? Maya's social media breakdown. Reclaiming experience from performance. Here's a powerful practice for just 1 day. Live without documenting. Take photos if you must, but don't post them. Write your thoughts, but keep them private. Go through your day, recording your experiences solely for yourself. Not for likes, not for comments, not for an audience. Notice how differently you perceive your surroundings. The warmth of the sunlight, the quiet joy in a friend's laugh, the simplicity of a shared meal. Without the pressure to perform, experience deepens. This single shift reveals just how much of modern life is filtered through the lens of performance, not presence. Try it. You might be surprised by how much of your daily joy was diluted by the compulsion to curate. Section 7, Animus in the Digital Age. Carl Jung believed we all carry within us both the anima, the feminine aspect of the psyche, and the animus, the masculine. Regardless of our biological gender, these inner archetypes shape how we feel, connect, and relate. But in 2025, our inner balance is challenged by digital life. Social media and dating apps often force us into exaggerated gender roles. Hyper-curated expressions of masculinity and femininity dominate timelines. Online, we project idealized versions of what we think others want to see, often at the expense of our own inner harmony. This distortion creates a gap between persona and essence. For example, someone may present as confident and independent, online animus, while suppressing vulnerability and emotional expression, anima. Others may highlight emotional openness, anima, while denying assertiveness or boundaries. Animus. Jung warned that when we suppress one side of this internal polarity, we project it onto others. That person you feel an irrational dislike for online, they might be reflecting traits you've buried within yourself. That influencer you envy, they could be embodying a version of you that you haven't yet allowed yourself to become. Our online interactions are mirrors. The ones that trigger us often reveal our own shadow work waiting to be done. Integration, digital versus physical connection. So what do we do with this awareness? The answer isn't digital detox, it's digital integration. Instead of rejecting online life altogether, we can start asking better questions. Does this interaction make me feel more human or less? Is this connection expanding my soul or shrinking it? Am I escaping something or moving towards something? When digital interactions leave you feeling numb or inadequate, that isn't proof that you're broken. It's guidance, it's your inner compass telling you, reconnect, reroute, come back to what's real. Modern myth and meaning, finding soul in an algorithmic world. Carl Jung believed that every era needs its own myth stories that help us make sense of the chaos. But in 25, many of our modern myths have been replaced by algorithms. We measure meaning in followers' productivity stats and engagement rates. But what if your real myth lives offline? Maybe it's about reclaiming quiet moments, watching clouds, reading books, making art without an audience. Maybe your myth is to be the one in your circle who listens deeply, who slows down, who heals others by being present. Individuation. Jung's term for becoming whole has never been more important. In the digital age, this means recognizing how technology shapes your identity, but also reclaiming your power in that relationship. Your anxiety isn't a flaw, it's your soul resisting reduction to data points. It's your inner world fighting to stay sacred. Pain transformed is wisdom earned. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by digital life, pause. Take a breath. Listen. That discomfort you feel. It isn't failure. It isn't weakness. It's your psyche calling you home. Jung's greatest insight was this: what you avoid most often contains your deepest truth. And maybe your pain in 2025 isn't just noise. Maybe it's your invitation to become more fully human. Answer it.